Hi, Scorpio. Welcome to your May 2016 Tarotscope. It's Raina here. So before I begin with the actual spread, I want to talk about a few transits that are happening in the month of May for you guys. In the first place, we have the Sun in your 7th house in the sign of Taurus. So as the month begins, there is a spotlight shining on your romantic partner, if you have one. And this would be somebody, not that you're casually dating, but that you have been with for a while and who you consider a committed partner. For those of you who may be estranged from a spouse or such a partner, it is possible that you will get back together or somehow smooth things over, because Venus will also be in Taurus until the 24th of the month, and so that helps to make things a little bit more harmonious. And we have a Mercury retrograde in this house as well in Taurus, and so that will be going direct on the 23rd. So there may have been some conversations with an ex or an estranged partner, and maybe towards the end of the month you will iron things out and get things back on track. That's always a possibility. We do have a new moon in this house as well on May 6th, so it's like a whole new development when it comes to your committed partnerships. So that's very positive energy overall for the 7th house activities. It also can deal with any legal matters. And the other big story in May, Scorpio, is that there is a lot of activity in your house of earned income, the 2nd house, because you guys have Sagittarius there, and there is a full moon in this house on May 21st at 1 degree of Sagittarius. And so while full moons can provide endings in whatever house they transit, it can also be said that there is some sort of fruition, there's some sort of expansion, I would say, that is possible. For this particular month, we have a blue moon, because we have 2 full moons in the sign of Sagittarius. One is that first one that I just mentioned at 1 degree of Sag, and then there's one in June at 29 degrees of Sagittarius. So it's kind of a bookends of beginnings and endings, so to speak, when it comes to some issues. So maybe something comes to light in regards to the money that you make. Maybe you kind of discover a new way to make money and you implement it, and then by the time the summer solstice rolls around, when that 2nd full moon occurs in Sagittarius, that will be the time when you reap the benefits. So it's very good for money in that sense. There are 2 other planets who have taken up shop in your 2nd house, and they're both in retrograde. We have Mars retrograding in Sagittarius at the moment, and we have Saturn. Now, Mars will be dipping back into Scorpio at some point, but for now, it's still in Sagittarius. And so in its retrograde motion, there may be something that is kind of suspended. Perhaps when it was direct in your 2nd house, Scorpio, you were feeling very driven towards earning money. And something may have happened that caused you to kind of pause. And that's perfectly fine. It's always good to reflect and kind of tweak your methods and see if you can come up with something better. Saturn in retrograde, I feel like it almost kind of lessens the negative aspects that sometimes can crop up when Saturn is in a house in terms of the feelings of restriction. It kind of eases up on that. However, I don't feel that Saturn in the second house is a negative influence overall, even though you can look at it as causing you to really look at your budget, look at, money coming in, money going out, and coming up with a game plan. I think that because it's an earth house, it's the natural house of Taurus, that anything to do with matters involving, practical matters will be benefited with this kind of a transit. So I feel like if you take advantage of Saturn in the second house, it can set you up for financial security in the future. And it all depends on if you do the legwork and if you kind of take advantage of this transit. So Jupiter is in the sign of Virgo, and it has been, obviously. And for you, Scorpio, Jupiter is in your 11th house. And the 11th house is the house of hopes and wishes. So it's kind of making your dreams come true. And Jupiter in this sector is very good for, manifesting those things that you've really been thinking about accomplishing. It's interesting to me the way that the houses progress. I mean, we have the 9th house, which is kind of like your philosophical framework, and then you have the 10th house of career, which is kind of worldly achievement. And then the 11th house is the house of, your wildest dreams, okay? So to me, they're all connected because they involve the philosophical framework by which we live our lives, and along with the kind of the material aspirations or worldly aspirations that we have in the 10th house of career. And that, joins, then it progresses into, making those dreams come true. So first you have to have the idea, and then you put it into action with the kind of career that you choose, and then you reap the rewards of the 11th house. So now, because you have this transit in the 11th house, it's time to reap those rewards based upon what you have put into motion. Now, if you haven't put into motion, things to, make your dreams come true, you can still use this energy to envision what you want. And because, Jupiter is known as the planet of luck and expansion, it may be something that you really don't have to work hard for. It may be something that just comes in for you out of the blue. But again, I personally don't believe in random events. I think that we do lay the groundwork in our own way, even if it's only on the mental level. And I shouldn't say only the mental level. In other words, some people think that if they really try to work hard, they can, achieve what they want. But as Abraham Hicks talks about in the law of attraction, it can be going upstream. It can be like trying to fight for things instead of allowing the flow to naturally occur. So that's the difference between those things. And the 11th house can usher in things when you have Jupiter transiting there. And you're just like, wow, this thing happened for me. But if you really kind of look back on it, you might see what caused it to happen, the thoughts that you had that led to it happening. So anyway, I'm going to start with the cards, and I'm looking in my viewfinder to see if they are even, if you can see them very well. So what I've done here, and I'm going to use my magic wand to kind of point out these things. We have the 3 periods in the month of May, and I kind of have like the 10-day kind of breakdowns. Now, I wanted to say something that relates to Jupiter because I went off on a tangent, but what I was trying to say is that Jupiter is turning direct on May 9th, and that will be in your house of hopes and wishes. So that may cause some movement in the things that you've been wanting to manifest. Okay, so back to this period of time. I'm looking at this first period as being up until the time when Jupiter goes direct, and then we have the middle of the month and the end of the month. So the first thing off the bat I noted when I was pulling these cards, now I only have 10 cards here, Scorpio, and how many of them are major arcana? High Priestess, Hermit, Strength, Death, the Devil card, 5 cards. So that's pretty significant in and of itself. That means that unlike some months where there may be a lot of mundane events occurring and not much actually happening, this could be one of your more transitional months. So in the first third of the month, we have the Three of Swords, the Queen of Swords, and the High Priestess. So some of you may be dealing with a heartbreak of some sort. You may be feeling a betrayal. You may be feeling rejected. And again, because the Sun and Mercury in retrograde are in this house, we're having a new moon in this house. And I mentioned something else. Venus is in this house. As far as I'm concerned, because all of that is positive for the most part, I feel like maybe this is from the past that is kind of coming into this month. Because the card in the middle about the kind of ways to handle that is to take charge in a kind of what would you call it, like a logical way versus, head versus heart. And because this is a feminine energy with the Queen, it's talking about the emotional self, okay? Because that's what the female principle is about, the personal concerns that we have. It's about the subjective part of us. And so coupled with the Three of Swords, which is another swords card with dealing with strife, drama. The Queen of Swords is about taking control of your emotions and not allowing them to affect your rational mind. Don't go too far, because if you do, the outcome can be that you are connected to your higher self. The reason this is important is because as a water sign, Scorpio, I'm not going to say it can always just go off the rails, but you know that you are very intense and you know that you feel things very deeply. If you were a Gemini, a typical Gemini, you might just kind of move on to the next situation. But Scorpios do not, give up their feelings in a moment's notice. You are a fixed water sign. You hold on to your feelings for sometimes a very long time, sometimes to your detriment. You hold on too long. And in this situation, you're being asked to become a lot more logical and less emotional, because something is happening that is making you have that kind of heartbreak that, some of you have unfortunately experienced time and again. And this has led to trust issues. It's a vicious cycle, isn't it? If you experience certain things, especially like, Scorpio rules sex and death, for instance, the mysteries of life. So you may have had some very profound, transformative experiences along those lines, but they can be scarring if they're not dealt with properly. If somebody in your life died when you're very young and you never got the proper outlet to be able to process those feelings, you can develop, a feeling of abandonment when you're dealing with a partner, and that can make you very suspicious. It can make you very jealous, because these are things that are associated with the shadow side of Scorpio. And there's a reason why people get like this. You know, it doesn't just drop from the sky. It happens for a reason. And it's something that you have to really fight against. But in this particular situation, you may have actually been the victim in that. Now, it could be that it could possibly be that you have to break up with somebody, and you have to adopt that detached perspective in order to do so. That's always a possibility. Because this is more of a general reading, I was kind of going into the love aspect, because this one, you see a heart, you think of love. In a business setting, you can still experience that sort of betrayal from someone. And it could even be that the person is a female boss that does that. Queens can represent women in authority, and she may be an air sign. She may be just very matter of fact, and maybe it's a co-worker who has seniority or somehow is above you, and this causes some sort of betrayal. Typically, these cards are representing the action to take. So it's really, I kind of remain flexible, because I know that sometimes things can show up that may not fit nice and neatly with a particular placement. So the other thing is that it's telling you that, let's say that you were betrayed on the workplace. The advice would be to just keep your head down and deal with it for the time being, because eventually you will be able to, contact your higher self and find that situation that is right for you. And you don't have to stay in a harmonious situation indefinitely, especially when you have been treated unfairly, which is what the Three of Swords would represent. The other thing I want to say too for romance is this could represent a, what do you call those? When there are a love triangle, because it's a number 3. So there could be 3 people involved that is causing all the strife. Now for the for the middle portion of the month, look at all the cards we get here. They're all major arcana. So that might be the shifting time. After the new moon, that may be the time when everything kind of shifts for you. So we have the Hermit, the Strength card, and the Death card. The Hermit card may be that you are more withdrawn than you usually are. But, coming on the heels of the High Priestess, I think that's really good. It bodes very well for any kind of spiritual discipline that you do in order to deal with either a love breakup or a bad situation on the workplace. If there's some kind of negative situation happening, the best thing you can do is just to keep to yourself until you can figure out a way to, find something better. There you go. Have strength. You do have the strength. You have to summon it from within you, but you do have it at your disposal. I feel like Scorpio is up there as one of the most powerful, strongest signs that are fearless in many respects. And it's just a matter of keeping your emotions in check. I think that is where you get tripped up. When you can and the way that you keep your emotions in check is by not making things personal, not taking things personally, and not viewing life in a subjective way, trying to see the bigger picture, pulling back rather than always, inserting your own puny little ego into it, and feeling, dissed. And I'm not talking about Scorpio specifically, but all of us, when we can draw back and see the higher perspective, a lot of times we can see that when there's a saying, hurt people. So if somebody has hurt you, it probably stands to reason that they are hurting themselves. And it doesn't make it right, but it kind of makes it less about us. If we're feeling targeted, we're feeling like, it's deliberately happening to us. No, it's not. Chances are that person is doing it to a lot of people. And, you don't have to take in other people's negativity. And I think, too, that, this is, Scorpio is a natural empath. And so you have to really, like the Hermit card is all about going within. And you have to kind of be able to not always get input from other people. Sometimes you have to just trust yourself. Other people are going to project their own stuff onto you, whatever your situation is anyhow. And it's really not about them. In the long run, you have to make decisions that work for you. The outcome is the Death card. So there is that transition. And this is a whole very, 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 from about May 10th to the 20th, a very important period of time for you, according to this spread. Now, let me just say, too, that the overall energy is the Nine of Pentacles. So, as I say, there's a lot of energy in that second house, which is an earth house associated with Pentacles, earth signs. So, in and of itself, the second house is all about, amassing money, doing it yourself. This woman, a 9, this is 9. 9s are about going within. And so this woman is not, is independent, she doesn't need somebody to support her. And she's also very, she's also enjoying everything that she has. There's an abundance surrounding her. So I feel like there's a lot of good energy for money in this month, but there's also a lot of transformation that will be taking place with you in terms of your own spiritual nature or just your basic nature altogether, like a kind of a transformation. Did I say that already? I don't know. Whatever. And then we have in the third week, we have the Ten of Wands, the Devil card, and the Ace of Cups. And by the way, let me just get back to these three cards. In terms of if this was a heartbreak situation, that would be about, seeking your own counsel. This would be about, just like with the business situation, having the fortitude to deal with whatever comes up and not running away from it. And the end result is transformation. So it's like going into a new phase. And so in the last 10 days, we have the Ten of Wands, the Devil card, and the Ace of Cups. The Ten of Wands is all about having a lot on your plate. Now, Wands can relate to the business, career sector. So again, with all that second house activity, it only stands to reason that you may be really swamped with work. And I feel like in a lot of ways that could be very good for you because it can either, it can take your mind off of things, but also you're being productive. You're not just sitting there and obsessing about something. And, Scorpios tend to get obsessive sometimes because they want to have that power over situations. And when they can't do it, it really is hard for them to cope because they feel like they have to manipulate. And this is, of course, the shadow aspect. The higher aspect is much more in alignment with understanding spiritual laws and realizing that when you try to force things, it doesn't work. And so the best thing to do is to allow things to be as they are. So then we have advice is the Devil card. So it's looking at what it is that is compulsive in your life, and it could have to do with a Capricorn. So if this person who broke your heart is a Capricorn, then that person has to be looked at in terms of the overall picture, especially if he or she wants to get back together with you, which may actually be the case, after the Mercury goes direct. That person may kind of waltz back into your life if you let them. And if you're so torn up about what happened, you might be totally willing to do it without considering the bigger picture. The Devil card is also, and so it's about breaking free from those chains, and seeing the areas that are addictive, compulsive areas for you. And this could be a sexual relationship that is really toxic, but sexually you feel drawn into it. And it's the more you get involved with this person, you feel like you're losing more and more of yourself, but you can't seem to break out of it. It could be some habit that you have that needs to be dealt with, and it's affecting other areas of your life. It's affecting your sense of judgment. That's one of the biggest things that happens when people have addictions, is they lose their sense of judgment and they make bad choices as a result. So all these things are needed to be looked at in order to reach a new level as you're making your transition into a new reality. At some point, especially during the latter part of May for you. The outcome is the Ace of Cups. So either with business or with pleasure or romance, you may have a new situation come about. You may have a new love that comes in. You may have a new job offer that is something that you have wanted, a heart's desire. As I talk about with that Jupiter turning direct in the 11th house, a heart's desire coming for you. Not something that is just lucrative, monetarily, but something that really stirs your passions, your heart, something that's heart-centered, a heart-centered business. Maybe it's something that you start yourself, but if it's somebody else hiring you, it's something that you're going to put your soul into. It's not just going to be, going there and mailing it in, So I think that you have a very important month, Scorpio, and I hope you enjoyed that. I am going to be picking a Law of Attraction card for you also. And if you would like a private reading where I use your natal chart to tune into your frequency, please click on the link below. I feel like the tarot coupled with the natal chart is the best 1-2 combination versus just the tarot by itself. But I do offer that for people who just want that. Okay, so I'm going to shuffle this even though there's writing on the back, and I won't look at the pictures. These cards are the Abraham Hicks cards, if you know about Esther and Jerry Hicks and the Law of Attraction. Jerry has made his transition. It's been a few years now, I think, and Esther still channels Abraham, which is a collection of ascended masters, so to speak, that kind of thing. And it really can put you into a different space in terms of seeing yourself not just as a victim of circumstance, but as a conscious co-creator. Okay, this is the one. Oh my gosh, talk about synchronicity. This card says, I can create my world as I choose. So I'm going to put it here, and hopefully you can see this. I love the artwork here. It's hard for me to see the viewfinder, so. You are here to create the world around you that you choose, while you allow the world, as others choose it to be, to exist also. But while their choices in no way hinder your choices, your attention to their choices does affect your vibration and therefore your point of attraction. And sometimes the wording on here may be a little bit convoluted for some people, but that seems pretty straightforward to me. What it means is that you have to tend to your own garden. And it's so important because a lot of people, they get focused on their partner's choices, and this leads to codependency. And what happens is that not only do you not get to affect what they choose to do, but you sap your strength at the same time. And you create within you a certain obsessive quality like the devil represents, where you're obsessed with getting them to change and not focusing on what you need to do to change. And then you don't have the time and energy for your own dreams, and that creates problems in and of itself. So I love these cards. I love the artwork, and I hope you enjoyed this, Scorpio, and have a great May. Bye.